This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate Marriage Cast 5-Minute Friday.
Happy Friday. So glad that you're joining us today. And we have a special guest back, Tony Boer with Sioux Empire Christian Counseling. Welcome back to our show, Tony, and happy Friday to you.
Hey, thanks for having me back again. I love being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so glad you're here, Tony. So a few weeks ago, Michelle, we had talked about in our episode 34, marathon marriage.
Yep.
And how when it comes to running a race, the two most important parts.
Yep. You need to know where you're starting and you need to know where you're going.
Bingo. You got it.
I was listening.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So we also talked about kind of in that the importance of having coaches in your life to kind of help you with maybe where you're at. And we wanted to build on this, especially because May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yep.
And we really wanted to build on this and the importance of coaches, of counselors in your lives. We both can speak to this in that there have been seasons where we both have had counselors.
Amazing ones.
Amazing counselors that have helped immensely. And so we thought for you, just because this is a topic that isn't necessarily talked about, maybe comes with a stigma or comes with an unknown scariness, at least I can speak to that. It was really scary to go to a counselor. We thought maybe we would just kind of dive in, and we have Tony here, an excellent resource. Maybe walk us through, Tony, why, maybe just quick overview, why this is important, why counseling, why having a coach, is important. And then what does it actually look like?
Okay, great questions. So just from when we talk about mental health is people don't focus on their mental health very much at all. And so that's why there's that stigma and they don't talk about it. Quick example, if I ask you guys, how many steps are you supposed to get in a day?
10,000.
Everybody says that,
Yeah.
10,000. How many hours of sleep are you supposed to have in a night?
6 to 8.
6 to 8, right? How many positive things are you supposed to tell yourself a day?
Ooh,
I don't know that one.
I don't either.
Yeah, no.
10 or 100 or what is it?
People don't know. It's a ratio of 4 to 1,
Oh.
right? You should have 4 positives to 1 negative. Nobody knows that
Yeah.
because it has to deal with mental health, right? And so part of that is just being comfortable. It's like, we need to go. We have an alarm on our watch that tells us to get up, go get your steps in, right? What tells you to go in and check your mental health or what's going on? So I want to kind of take that stigma away as it's not that terrible or bad, right? We're going in and you can just go in and get checked. Like, how am I doing? What's going on? Here's where I'm at. Those coaches and that you're talking about, let's just figure those things out. It's like, hey, I don't talk about this much. I don't share my feelings. I don't know what's going on. And who do I do that with? A counselor is a perfect person to go sit down, do that. It's safe. It's confidential. And so you kind of talk about what do you expect when you get there is it's kind of like this, right? I would encourage you guys to watch the episode from Tuesday because it's very similar to what a counseling session is like. You just sit down, you talk, you share your feelings, we solve some problems and go. There's not judgment. I'm not giving you orders and telling you what to do. I'm just listening and giving you some suggestions and telling you what to do. Things that a lot of people don't know about counseling is a lot of times counseling is covered under your insurance. It's just like health insurance. It's the same thing as mental health and physical health. Most of the time, it's a copay, just like when you go to the doctor, right? And that's an important thing to remember. You're going to a doctor to check on something.
Sure.
You're going to a counselor just to check on something.
What are some of the common copays that you've seen, Tony?
Everybody's insurance is a little bit different. So most of the time, it's anywhere from $50 to $100 based on your insurance or where you're at.
Yeah.
But to kind of think of that and fill out some paperwork, you come in, you're gonna be nervous, right? That's okay. You're usually a little nervous or not feeling great when you're in the doctor's office, right? There's a reason you're there, right? And so that's something to kind of remember when someone comes and sits in my office. I'm like, I already know that there's something going on because if you're like me and a man and you like to go to the doctor, I got to be pretty sick. I got to be pretty miserable.
Right.
I'm kind of stuck.
Right.
And I'm like, fine, I'll go in, right? That's a lot of times what people have with going to a counselor. I'm stuck, I'm miserable. Fine, I'll go in. So we kind of know that. That's okay, right? And you come in, you sit down. I had one person come in and they go, you have a couch in here. Do I have to lay down? And I'm like, I guess if you want to, you can. But they were just from TV. They just see that kind of craziness. And the couch is like, nah, it's just a conversation. And we sit down and just like a doctor, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And what do you need some help with? And it sounds scary, but once you get going, when people leave, almost every time they go, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm like, no, it's not that bad.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like, on you talked about the show on Tuesday and we had joked like, oh, Tony, thanks for letting us come to this counseling session. But it just is such a kind of a natural conversation where I feel like when I've been to a counselor, I feel free to share as little or much as is on my heart and mind that day. And they kind of give good guidance. And I feel like there are some that even have different styles. Like, what kind of, do you want like more like direct, or do you just want me to listen? Do you want it to be faith-based? But it's just really great guidance and a different outside perspective of things that I can't see, because when I'm in it, I'm like tunnel vision blinded to it, but you're like an outside perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said, that you get to share whatever you want, however little or much. And so I think that's important to remember in counseling. You're the one in control, right? You get to share what you like, what you don't want to share. You get to pick and choose that. So that takes some of that fear off, right? In counseling, you don't sit down and I go, all right, tell me your deepest, darkest secret, go. No, it's like, all right, where are you at? What's going on? And what do you need? Do you want to just vent and express this? Would you like some guidance? Is that person gets to direct that. And that's a really safe environment to do that. And having somebody, the power of an outsider looking at your problem is really powerful. And you'll hear that in marriage counseling a lot. I'll say something and the spouse like, well, I say that all the time. I'm like, yeah, I just said it a little bit different and I don't have a history and power and I haven't been fighting with you. So then that person hears it a little bit different.
Sure.
And it just helps mediate those conversations. And so, yeah, it's just a safe place to check into kind of with your kind of race and coaching kind of things like, hey, where are you going? How are you doing on your race? And are you going in the right direction? Counseling is just one more person that can help you do that.
Yeah.
It's so good. I feel like, and I don't know this, but I just seen Ryan's journey with it when there was a season where you felt like you needed to go in and needed some additional help, but maybe it was more of like, oh, but guys don't go. Tony, can you help debunk that myth? Do guys go to counselors?
Guys do go to counselors. And we can make it even bigger. Healthy guys go to counselors. They go to counselors and they're like, well, I don't know about my feelings. I don't want to be some touchy-feely. All this, like, slow down. All we're doing is helping you solve a problem. Guys like to solve problems. They get stuck. It's okay to get stuck with problems with your life and your feelings and your emotions, right? If you put it in guy context, if your car isn't working and you're a mechanic and you're working and you can't figure it out, what do? You start calling around. Hey, I can't get this to work. Can you tell me what's going on? Will you come take a look at this? What's going on? We don't have any trouble doing that. There's no difference. Like, man, I am trying to talk to my wife. I think I'm doing things right. And I talk to her and she just gets mad and angry. Why wouldn't you go ask for some help on that?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? What's happening? And so it's not this big failure, this bad thing. But yeah, guys do come to counseling and we solve problems. We fix things. It's a safe, cool place. But healthy people get checked up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back to Tuesday's episode about transitions, and maybe you're in a transition that you don't know what you're doing, and you just want a space to be able to talk about that. I think back to that part of my journey. The pandemic was really difficult, and coming out of that pandemic, almost like reintroducing to the world again.
Yeah.
Like I struggled, and that in itself is a transition, and so like being able to have someone to talk through, to to do these things. I mean, it was a huge, huge help for me. And it's not like, it was a season and it was a transition that it was extremely helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay to go for a season.
Absolutely.
Too. So
Yeah. And then that quick story just with the COVID is that story you just shared, how it was a difficult transition for you. That was true of a lot of people, right? It's not just you, right? So when you go to a counselor, I've heard that story a bunch of times. So then I get to help and do that. So it's kind of like the car thing is like, this part isn't working in your car. Have you tried this? Why don't you do this? Oh, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think counselors are super smart. Actually, we just hear the same stories over and over, and we get to kind of apply that. So when you come in, you're like, hey, I'm really having troubles with this. Yeah. I get to go, I was like, oh, this, and this. You're like, yeah, how'd you know, Tony? I'm like, well, other people are doing that. And that's, well, why don't you try this and this? Okay, cool. And I think just don't be afraid to go to a counselor, because the stuff you're struggling with is the stuff lots of people are struggling with. You're not alone.
So good. So good. Tony, thank you for being here for, I think, probably a little bit longer 5-Minute Friday, but such an important topic. Yeah. So thank you to our listeners for listening today. And we just encourage you and just want you to know that you are important. Your mental health is important. Take that first step. Find a counselor. Find someone to walk it with you. If you need help or marriage resources or help finding a counselor, we'll put our website at celebrate.church/marriage in our show notes. Tony, can we put a link to your counseling facility there too? And reach out if you're listening out of state, out of country, reach out. We'd love to just walk with you and finding someone to get you connected with. So we hope you have a great weekend. Feel free to watch us online at celebrate.church. And we wish you a great weekend.